All right, welcome back. Here we are at part 2 of our flight from Charleston, West Virginia, KCRW, Kilo Charlie Romeo Whiskey, to Albany, New York, Kilo Alpha Lima Bravo. We've just been given our descent instructions. We're at flight level 3. We've been flying at flight level 350, just above the weather. And now we've been instructed to fly down to flight level 290, down to 29,000 feet. I was just looking at an airport diagram, trying to anticipate my exit, and it seems clear that I'm going to be exiting to the left. Best laid plans of mice and men, who knows, but that's, looking at the airport diagram, that's what I would expect. We're landing at RNAV runway 28. Runway length is 7,200 feet. Airport elevation is 285 feet. Approach course for runway 28 is 281. Minimums are 783. No ILS frequency to enter in today because we're doing the RNAV approach. But so far, things have been good. Getting ready to descend into the soup. Weather in Albany right now is mostly cloudy, 36 degrees. Rain and snow forecast Saturday and Sunday. Sunset at 4:31 in Albany. We're going to be landing at about 5. Well, and I expect in about 19 minutes. And local time in Albany is 4:59. So 5:18. Let's use that as our estimated landing time. 5:18 local time. 22:18 Zulu time. We'll see how accurate that is. It's been real rough air. Got above the weather at 35,000 feet, but it was still, there was still some chop. It was manageable. It wasn't anything too dramatic. The climb out of Charleston was rough, and now we're descending into the soup. I had hoped to be able to get a little daylight in Albany as long as I keep flying east, however. Unless I start doing these flights, I do all my flights in real time, as I've said before, so unless I start doing these flights in the morning, we're going to be stuck doing night flights if we stay on the East Coast. Leveling out at 29,000 should get a further descent instruction momentarily. But it's okay with me if we don't, because we're 116 nautical miles out and we're at 29,000. There's that further descent instruction down to 230 Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey.
Descend and maintain flight level 230 Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey.
I tell you, controlling these knobs with a mouse and mouse wheel when you're bouncing around is a challenge. Anyway, as I was saying, we'll descend at 1,800 feet per minute. As I was saying, look at how much chop. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of chop. We had a hell of a tailwind. We still do. Look at this, 114 knots. Still got that roll oscillation problem. I got an email from Microsoft saying that the bug's been identified. Well, hopefully that means they'll get rid of it again, since they already got rid of it once and then reintroduced it. Well played, gentlemen. Headed to DNY as our next waypoint right here. DNY, 3.8 nautical miles away, 22 seconds. Zoom out on our MFD if I can get a finger on this knob. Set it at 10. Just to remind you or refamiliarize you with our approach. There's DNY. Going to get to Oak Hill and turn due east. Canaan. Big left turn to the north. Tutdu, turn northwest, and then from Trozy, Yakutat, and Sime. That's the final approach. Distance between Trozy and Yakutat is 4.1. Distance from Yakutat to Sime is 2.1. And distance from Sime to the airport is 5.9. So a little quick math there is about 12.1 mile final, which is fine. 95 miles out and 25,800 feet. The standard formula I use for computing top of descent and where we need to be, man, we are bouncing around. It's hard to see in the darkness, and maybe it doesn't come through on the video, but I'm telling you, on this 49-inch Asus monitor that I've got, it feels like my whole room's shaking. Anyway, with a 90 miles out, you'd expect to be at 27,000 feet. We're at 24,900. This airport's, it's not at sea level, but it's basically at sea level. It's at 285 feet, so that approach or descent rubric is, it can be followed pretty religiously on airports that are at or close to sea level. For airports that are above it, say 3,000 feet above sea level, you just add 3,000 feet to any particular number that you're looking at. If you're at 80 miles out from the airport, normally you'd expect to be at 24,000 feet, but if your airport's at 3,000 feet above sea level, then you'd expect to be at 27,000 feet. Makes sense, right? Tracking nicely. I don't know why this isn't magenta. It should be. Still have that tailwind. 112, 113 knots, even at 23,000 feet as we continue descending. Customarily, you expect to see tailwinds diminish as you descend. Down to 11,000, Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey.
Descend and maintain 11,000 feet, Cessna 3 Bravo.
So use our altitude selector to set 11,000 feet, and we'll continue our descent. Descending at 1,600 feet per minute right now. Already getting RNAV glide path, information. So just as I said, Canaan.
Descend and maintain 3,500 feet. Expect RNAV runway to
Start slowing.
Transition cleared to Canaan, Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey.
See, we just passed Oakle. There's Canaan. We're cleared to Canaan. That's where we're headed. And then at Trozy, don't forget Trozy, we want to be at 3,500 feet. So that's why they've cleared us down to 3,500 feet. We actually do not need to be at 3,500 feet at Canaan. We just need to be at 3,500 feet at Trozy. Now let's look. Let's do some math here. We're 4 minutes and 42 seconds from Canaan, and we're descending at 2,000 feet per minute. So that means we'll be 8,000 feet lower than we are now. Say we're at 21,000 feet. We'll be at 13,000 feet at Canaan. 66 miles out from the airport. At 60 miles from the airport, we're going to be at 18,000 feet. So we'll start slowing now. I can't overstate how much you have to constantly monitor this stuff, because it really can sneak up on you. And God knows I've made the mistake enough times where I ended up getting ready for final and I was too high. I was just too high. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating when that happens. So that chart, that procedure I use about, at 6,000 feet at 20 miles out, 9,000 feet at 30 miles out, it's also quite dependent on the wind. We've still got a 100-knot tailwind, so that's getting us to our destination a lot faster than we would be getting there if we weren't dealing with a 100-knot tailwind. So we're going to keep slowing. 58 miles out and at 18,400 feet, so within the realm of what we would expect. Go ahead and set our heading bug for the approach course of 281.
Transition altitude. Nearest altimeter 3006.
Betty says the nearest altimeter is 3006, so we'll go over here, zoom in on this altimeter right now, which is at 29902, which is standard above 18,000. We'll sync it 29903. So ForeFlight says that the altimeter at Albany is 3006, but the flight sim says that the altimeter where I am right now is 29903. We'll update that again as we get closer. 50 miles out now and 16,300 feet. Expect to generally be at 15,000 at 50 miles out, but it's completely within the realm of acceptable. The realm of acceptable. I like that.
Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey, contact Boston Center on 132.65.
3265, Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey. Good day.
132.65 Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey.
You can see with the landing about 50 minutes after sunset, our hopes of any light are dashed.
100 feet for 3,500 feet.
Passing over the Hudson. Right here, Hudson River. Right now, passing over the Hudson River. 29903 is still good, okay. Get ready to pass below 10,000 feet, so we need to be below 250 KIAS, knots indicated airspeed here. We're just fine right now. (13,100 feet). Obviously, we're IMC. You can't see shit out the window. There's another airplane. See some faint anti-collision lights, but look at our passenger's view, right? Well, that's exciting, right? That looks great. If you thought, wait a minute, all we saw was a black screen, yes, you're correct.
125.35 FedEx 3720.
You are correct. Don't ask how I get these. Approach at 1805, Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey. Good day.
118.05 for Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey.
We're at 11,300 feet, 37 miles. 30 miles out, we want to be at 9,000 feet. So we're going to continue slowing.
3,500 feet. Cessna November 343 Bravo Whiskey, Albany approach. Continue to do as planned. Altimeter 29.903.
Probably have to break out those speed brakes in a second. Descending steeply. Really, if I could just get my hand on this knob. Let's go ahead and set.
Landing gear.
There's the expected.
Landing gear.
That's why we use speed brakes.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing
Shallow
gear.
rudder descent rate.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
33 miles out,
Landing
9,400 feet. So we can definitely be more conservative now on our descent rate. Bring up the speed brakes now that the throttle's responding. 9,100 feet. We're at 32 miles out, so we're looking perfect now. It's constant minor corrections. Just, I mean, and keep in mind, this airplane's on autopilot. I mean, I've got all settings at hard, all settings at ultra. You could have the sim do all this crap for you, but the thrill I get out of this game is doing all this stuff myself. Shallow rudder descent rate further, 1,200 feet per minute, 8,300 feet and 29 nautical miles out. We're making that left turn. Let's turn off the bank limiter. Right there, bank. Turn off that bank limiter to allow the airplane to turn more steeply. 190 knots showing. Knots indicated, that's good. Again, see where we are. That's us. Remember, we need to, not at Tutdu, but at Trozy. At Trozy, we got to be at 3,500 feet. We're at 7,900 feet right now, and we're 10 miles from Tutdu, 3 minutes. So do the math, right? 1,200 feet per minute. That's 3,600 feet off of 7,700 feet. Say 76. That'd put us at 4,000 at Tutdu. Okay? And Tutdu, from there to Trozy is probably, I don't know, ballpark it, look at my other, about 4 miles, 5 miles from Tutdu to Trozy. So that means we're not going to have any problem being at 3,500 feet at Trozy. See, we had to, because the bank limiter was on, we took that turn really wide. So now we're correcting, and you can see here, this magenta line's lining up. We'll turn right here. Not that you can tell. These night approaches are really something to see, aren't they? I'm sorry. You can't see shit. Well, it's a good commentary on just how, I mean, I really admire these pilots that can fly this stuff in these kinds of conditions at night and stuff, because, you know, one thing I'm not having to deal with is inertial factors. You know, I don't feel the airplane moving and get into some graveyard spiral where I think it's doing one thing, but it's actually doing another. I mean, they tell you, I've watched enough, I've flown enough, although I've never flown IMC, I've never flown IFR, but you must trust your instruments. Because look outside. I mean, there's nothing. So this is all you have to tell you how your plane's oriented, what altitude you're at, which direction you're flying, your speed, the altitude or the horizon. I mean, it's all you've got. So it's serious business. We'll be at 3,500 feet. Let's put it down a notch of flaps here.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
Speed brakes if necessary. There we go. We are 59 seconds from Tutdu, so we got another minute, so we'll lose another 1,500 feet off of this 5,200. We have about 3,600 feet in 60 seconds. And remember, what do we want at, not Tutdu, but at Trozy? 3,500 feet. So we're just fine. The only variable that remains is the RNAV and how that goes. Still can't see anything. I mean, we must be in the thick soup because I can't see anything on the ground. Nothing. Let's get those landing lights on. You can see the landing lights are sort of glowing in the fog or clouds, reconfirming that we are, in fact, completely IMC. Completely IMC. You see the wing now. I turned on the wing inspection light. Icing, but we got our anti-icing equipment on. Okay, we are 90 seconds from Trozy. And at 3,800 feet, we need to be at 3,500 feet at Trozy. Okay. And we're passing 3,800 feet right now. RA is radio altimeter showing that we're 2,400 feet above ground level. That always gives me a little bit of heartburn, I'll be honest. But this is the published approach played for this airport. So it's not like I'm just sort of hot dogging it into the airport. This is where they told us to be. And this has an isoline map here that can be quite useful in terms of seeing your terrain. And it's obvious, as you can see, this topographical features. The terrain is getting lower as we pass over it.
Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey descend and maintain 2,500 feet.
Down to 2,500, Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey.
Descend and maintain 2,500 feet, Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey.
Nice conservative descent, okay? Because remember, our minimums are 783, meaning we have to be able to see the runway at 783 feet. You see that RA, that radio altimeter? That number's holding steady even though we're descending. That's because the terrain below us sort sort of falling away. Okay, here's our left turn at Trozy. We are on final approach now. So it's time to switch this over to APPR. And in theory, there's our glide path. I'm going to continue to control the descent, however. Do another notch of flaps in our landing gear. Can't see anything. Oh, look! Oh, perfect timing. We just came out of the clouds. Okay, beautiful. Beautiful. Whew. Okay, good. I don't have to worry about a minimums approach. Now the only question is, I don't have any useful glide path information right now. This is not right. We're not dramatically high. So I just have to use that information I mentioned. And that is that at Yakut, we want to be at 2,500 feet. Okay, you don't want to be dramatically lower than 2,500 feet, and you don't want to be dramatically higher than 2,500 feet. Until you get useful RNAV glide path information.
Cessna Tree Bravo Whiskey, you are 11 miles east of Albany. Contact Albany Tower on 119.5 when inbound.
19.5, Cessna 3, Bravo Whiskey.
Tower on 119.5 Cessna Tree Bravo Whiskey.
It's the runway. I got it. You actually see red on the Voss, on the Poppy. So this is a good lesson not to... Don't listen to the glide path information on an RNAV. At least not until you get closer, because that's just not correct. We're not too high. 3006. We are not too high at all. We're flying in below the glide path, which is what you would want. But if you watch just this, you'd be up shit creek without a paddle. I mean, we just flew over Yakut, and we're at 2,600 feet. We want to be at 2,500 feet. That's great. So I'm going to manage this descent myself. I know our next is Sime. We want to be at 2,200 feet at Sime. So I'll do that myself. I'll set our descent rate at 700 feet per minute. And hopefully we get glide path. But again, that looks pretty nice. Turn off that wing inspection light. We don't need that anymore. Okay, now we got glide path. I don't know if you noticed while I was fucking around with that wing inspection light, we grabbed the green GP. So we're in great shape right now. Let's continue slowing. Full flaps. Winds are coming right at us at 18 knots. At least we don't have a tailwind landing this time. Look at the lighting! My God, it's incredible to behold! Screenshot.
Cessna Tree Bravo Whiskey, clear to land runway 28.
Clear to land
Wind
28.
175 at 24.
Clear to land 28. That's the 3 Bravo Whiskey. Big.
Cleared to land runway
Look
28,
at
Cessna
that
3 Bravo
shit.
Whiskey.
Passenger view. Oh, stadium. I just can't get enough of this shit. I swear to God. Okay. All right, we're perfect on the glide path. Right there. So what's the lesson? The lesson is don't be too dependent on that glide path until you get closer. Just stick by the plates. Stick by the published approach plates. Use the information they give you because it's helpful. Auto throttle disengaged. You don't have to know how high should I be, how low should I be. Just look at your MFD, see the waypoints that you know you're going to be passing over when you're on final,
2-mile final runway 28.
and make sure that your altitude corresponds. I mean, this is not rocket science. We got white and red on the poppies now, 1 white, 3 reds. Going to disengage the autopilot here in a moment. Calibrate the throttle. Control that airspeed. Wait for the 500 call out. Here it comes.
500.
500.
Autopilot.
Autopilot.
Hop up. Got 4 reds, 1 white. There you go. 2 whites. I swear I never get used to this. Jesus Christ. A little grass on the tires there, friends. I'm sorry. That wind shifted. Let me just show you what happened. Do you remember how I said that the 18 knot wind was coming right at us? Well, we got fucked by the shifting winds. You can actually see it happen. It was actually incredibly disturbing. Look at our winds now. 14 knot tailwind. In an instant, it shifted from a 18 knot headwind to a 14 knot left quartering tailwind, and that it happened. I'll have to watch the video later, but it happened at or around the moment of landing, and we. I mean, the touchdown was actually pretty smooth, but
Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey, contact ground on 121.7.
it's like a gust. I don't know what it is with me in the
121.7
left
for
tire.
Cessna 3 Bravo Whiskey.
Okay, man, I tell you, my blood pressure. All right, so let's, before we do that, let's look outside here real quick. Can't see shit. I don't know if I can... want to bring in those spoilers. I can't see anything. Let's go back inside. Let's bring in the spoilers. Bring in the flaps. Taxi lights are on, landing lights are off, pulse lights off. Okay. Let's go. Stop our timer. I think we're about 3 minutes late. Okay. Well, I hate that. I hate that. I mean, I want a nice smooth rollout. But it's pretty damned hard to accommodate and handle a wind shift that goes from straight at you to from behind and your left when you're you know, doing 140 knots. But it's okay. Hey, listen, remember, all my settings are at hard. So if there was anything about that that was a problem for the airplane, believe me, I've been on the receiving end of it, although it's been a while, where it says, oh, sorry, and it doesn't even let you have the dignity of landing or continuing to land. It just says, it just drops you to a miserable black screen that says you caused critical damage to the airplane, which is depressing. I mean, I certainly acknowledge and recognize that winds can shift dramatically, but I don't know, sometimes it kind of seems to happen more than it should in this sim. I mean, to go from an 18 knot headwind to a 14 knot left quartering tailwind in 2 seconds, I don't know. That seems a little frustrating, but it's all right. We're down on the ground. We're safe. Keep that little white airplane right there on the yellow line. Still windy as fuck. Very close to parking though, thankfully. Just a 1/10 of a mile. Pitch black. Just pitch black. Can't see Bupkis. Alright, so I don't know if we're going to get flashlight help or what. I'm going to follow this yellow line down here on our PFD, right here. Now we have no more yellow lines, so let's see, do we get any help today, guys? Nothing? Nothing, huh? See if we go outside, if that might help us at all. Nope, I'm not seeing anything in the way of ground crew assistance. Alright, we're on our own. Alright. Parking brake. Parking brake is on. Right engine. It's off. Those lights. Icing equipment. Alright, well, friends, it is what it is. Not my best landing, but the video will tell the story of the instantaneously, unpredictably changing wind that rocked our aircraft to the left rather noticeably. But I got us back on the runway, and I got us... we never actually left the runway. I think the left tire... Okay, maybe the left tire slightly left the runway. Anyway, you have to remember it's a sim, and it's still got its fair share of bugs, but I ain't complaining. This thing's fantastic. All right, so let's kill that left engine, and then let's see if it drops us to the logbook screen. Yep, there we go. Total flight time, 1 hour, 3 minutes, 38 seconds. So 64-minute flight from Charleston, West Virginia up to Albany, New York. Here we are. Got our daytime takeoff qualification and a nighttime landing qualification. 32 night landings now. 121 day landings. 147 day takeoffs and 13 night takeoffs. So works for me. December 30th, tomorrow's New Year's Eve. Where should we go? Maybe we ought to go to New York. Nah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about New York these days. I don't know. We'll see. I wouldn't mind heading west for any amongst you who hear this who may have some influence on where I fly. I won't speculate or comment any further. I do miss the American Southwest, however. All right. Thanks, my friends, and we'll see where we go next. Remember, I don't edit any of this stuff, so you get to see it as it happens. As it happens. Thanks again.